Hi, my name's Aaron Myers, and I'm the Director of Digital Outreach with Crescent Project and the writer behind the Everywhere to Everywhere blog. In the last few articles, I've been discussing kind of ways that we can begin to engage with the unreached who've moved into our cities, into our regions, how we can find them, the attitudes that we should have, and some principles about interacting with them. And today, I want to talk about kind of who they are and how they're coming. I want to start, though, with something that we see in the book of Acts. And this is the scene where the Apostle Paul has found himself in Athens. Last week, we talked about the principle of being a learner. And we've seen Paul be a learner, walking through the streets of Athens, discovering that these people are worshiping an unknown God and using that as a starting point for a gospel conversation. And it's at the Areopagus, where Paul is speaking to them, that he says this: "From one man he made all the nations that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him." Now, the reality is that if we have immigrants, refugees, international students, if we have people from other parts of the world living in our neighborhoods, living in our cities, living in our regions, it's because God has brought them there. He's determined the times and the places of everyone on earth so that they might reach out to him and find him. And as we think about engaging the unreached in our midst, it's important to understand who they are and how they've come. And so I want to today talk about kind of 5 reasons that people come to North America, that 5 ways that they might come and be in your city. A first thing that we see is that many are coming as immigrants and professionals. These are doctors and engineers. They are scientists. They are people who are businessmen who are wanting to start businesses in the United States. They've come with a certain level of prestige, with a certain level of provision. They generally have done pretty well for themselves. They're well educated. They have opportunities, and they're choosing to move here. And I think of the doctor who I visited just last fall. I visited an endocrinologist because I had some parathyroid issues. I think about in our city of Sioux Falls, there's a credit card company that was bought by a multi-billion-dollar multinational company called Tata Consultancy. It's a company out of India, and they brought in 30-some families to work as IT specialists. These men and their families came. They all spoke English. They all made quite a bit of money, and they kind of all moved into the same kind of group of kind of upper middle class apartment complexes, and they're working here, but they've come with means. They've come with English. They've come without a lot of needs that we think of when we think about maybe generally thinking about reaching out to immigrants and another group that we'll talk about later, refugees. Now, a second group, a second reason that people from unreached people groups might be in your vicinity, might be in your city or in your region, is that they've come as international students. Now, this could be a one-year program like many of us are familiar with, a foreign exchange student who's come during high school, and they're going to live with an American family. But our universities are also filled up with international students who've come to get their bachelor's degrees or to get their master's degrees or to get their doctoral degrees. They're generally coming to study the sciences and the maths and they're going to be leaders in industry. About 40% of them will remain for a time, continuing on in their field, working, being a productive part of our economy. The majority, though, will return to their own countries. And a question that I wrestle with in regards to this particular group is, will they go home having heard the gospel? Many of them are coming from places where there is no gospel witness. The number one country sending university students to America is China. China, where from kindergarten to high school to college, atheism is the indoctrination of the entire society. And what a tremendous opportunity we have to engage with them. I think for my family, there was a local university. They have a mentorship program for students, a friendship family, they called it. And we signed up to be a friendship family, and we're able to one semester be a friendship family for a young lady from Central Asia, and another time from South Asia. We were a part of their lives. We got to demonstrate the love of Jesus to them. We got to bring them to church on Easter Sunday, the first church service one of these girls had ever been to. Now, as I mentioned, a third group, a third kind of way that people are coming to North America, to the West, is through refugee resettlement. Now, the refugee resettlement program is in partnership with the United Nations, and there are specific reasons that a person can qualify to be a refugee. It generally has to do with that they are in danger because of their race, because of their religious beliefs, because of their political persuasion, something like that, that they are a group of people that are in danger. And so they've qualified to be refugees. And we have a particular program that brings refugees to our country, along with Canada and many countries. And refugees are often, unlike professionals and immigrants, they're in a situation where they didn't choose necessarily to come. They fled for their lives, more than likely, and they might have left everything behind. And they've been told, you are going to go to America, and they don't have any choice in the matter. They just are brought to a city in America and said, hey, we're going to help you resettle here. And very quickly, they need to get work, and many of them need help with learning languages. They need help understanding the systems of the way things work in America. I remember a friend of mine meeting a young Syrian family, and the young mother, her daughter was about 4 years old, about ready to go to kindergarten. And she didn't know what to do. She'd seen a poster that said there was a kindergarten roundup. She looked up the word roundup, and she didn't like what she thought that was. And this is a cultural thing. We have these kindergarten roundups where we introduce kids and their families to kindergarten. And my friend was able to help this family figure out the system, make a way for them to be introduced to how things worked here in America. Another reason that people are coming to North America is for tourism. And there's really two sides to this. One is as tourists. If you're at any major tourist destination, a national park, a Disneyland, Washington, D.C., any of these places, there's going to be people from all over the world coming to see these places as well. And we just maybe have these incidental contacts with people where we maybe have an opportunity to strike up a conversation. I remember I was in a Perkins once having lunch with a pastor friend of mine, and this family walked in that were obviously from the Gulf. And the lady was wearing an all black head covering, a hijab. And I after we were finished, I just said, hey, how are you guys doing? It looks like you're passing through. And I just asked them a few questions, and they had landed in Sioux Falls, and they were on their way to visit Mount Rushmore. And it was just a friendly interaction, perhaps the first interaction they had with an American. The other reason that tourism draws people from unreached people groups to the United States is that we need workers in our tourism industry during the busy seasons. And so there's a visa situation to bring people to work in the hotels, the restaurants, the museums and shops in the tourist areas of North America. My family and I were in Colorado once, and we had just returned from Turkey a few years prior, and we were ordering at Subway, and the two men behind the counter, we didn't know much about them. They were just two young guys serving, but they started to put the wrong kind of meat on my son's sandwich. And my wife said, hey, excuse me, he doesn't want ham, he wants turkey. And she heard the one man say to the other, dur, stop, in Turkish. And we immediately broke into a Turkish conversation. And indeed, these two guys were here just for the summer to work at Subway during the tourism season. And we were able to connect with them and have a conversation with them and exchange Facebook profiles so that we could remain connected with them. A final group of people, final reason that people are coming to the United States is that we find that some of them are coming and they're either overstaying their visas or they're crossing probably our southern border and they are undocumented immigrants. We generally won't know when we meet these people that this is the case. There won't be any way to know, but they're here and they're trying to get work and perhaps they're just trying to find a better way economically, a chance to earn a living. They just maybe want to pursue the American dream, but they're here. And while we won't know that they're undocumented or not unless we really get into a relationship with them, we may have an opportunity to cross paths with them, to demonstrate the love of Christ with them, and to share the love of Jesus, to share the gospel. Many of the people coming from the unreached world are coming from places where there's little, if any, gospel witness. I think about the city I live near, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. There in the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, there are more churches than there are in many of these people groups in the entire world. We have a real opportunity. And I just want to encourage us that if we truly believe that God is determining the times and places that people live, then we dare not miss this opportunity to be a gospel witness to an unreached person who's never had an opportunity to meet a Christian, to hold or read a Bible, to visit a church. These things don't exist where they came from. And so be on the lookout. And I hope this series of articles will help you to consider how you can be involved, how you can be a part of completing the Great Commission.